was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know of my own knowledge what there is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadliest piece of ironmongery in the trade, but the wisdom of our ancestors is in the simile, and my unhallowed hands shall not disturb it, or the country's done for. You will therefore permit me to repeat, emphatically, that Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole friend, and sole mourner. There is no doubt that Marley was dead. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come from the story we are going to relate. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. No wind that blew was bitterer than he. No falling snow was more intent upon its purpose. Let us meet Ebenezer Scrooge. Once upon a time, of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy at his counting house. The city clocks had only just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. It had not been light all day, and candles were flaring in the windows of the neighboring offices. Scrooge kept his eye upon his clerk, who in a dismal little cell beyond, a sort of tank, was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. But he couldn't replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room. And so surely as the clerk came in with the shovel, the master predicted that it would be necessary for them to part. Wherefore, the clerk put on his comforter and tried to warm himself at the candle, in which effort, not being a man of strong imagination, he failed.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you.
Humbug.
Oh, Christmas a humbug, Uncle. You don't mean that, I'm sure.
I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? Poor enough.
Come now. What reason have you to be so dismal? What reason have you to be so morose? You're rich enough.
Humbug.
Oh, don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I do when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? Time to find yourself a whole year older and not 1 hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
Uncle!
Winifred, you keep Christmas in your way, let me keep it in mine.
Oh, keep it, but you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone then. Much good may it do you? Much good it has ever done you.
There are many things from which I may have profited, from which I have not gained a single ounce of gold or silver. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time as a good time, a pleasant, kind, charitable, forgiving time. The only time in the long calendar of the year in which men and women are by one consent to open their shutter pots freely. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I say it has done me good and will do me good, and I say God bless it.
Let me hear one more sound from you. You keep your Christmas by losing your employment. You're a very powerful speaker, madam. It's a wonder you don't run for Parliament.
Come now, Uncle. Come dine with us tomorrow.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry to find you so resolute. Regardless. A happy Christmas.
Afternoon.
Happy New Year.
Good afternoon.
And a Merry Christmas to you, Bob Cratchit, and your family.
A very Merry Christmas to you, my dear.
There's another fellow, my clerk. 15 shillings a week with a wife and family to support, talking about a Merry Christmas.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have I the pleasure of addressing a Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead for 7 years. He died 7 years ago, this very night, in fact.
I have no doubt that his liberality is well represented in his surviving partner. At this festive season, it is more than usually desirable that we make some small provision for the poor and destitute who suffer greatly at the present time.
Are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons.
And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?
They are. Still, I wish I could say they were not. A few of us are raising a fund to provide the poor with some means of meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to remain anonymous.
I wish to be left alone. Since you asked me what I wish, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself for Christmas time, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the institutions I have mentioned. They cost enough. Those who are badly off may go there.
Many cannot go there, and many more would rather die.
Well, if they would rather die, then they had better do it! Decrease the surplus population. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Seeing clearly that it would be useless to pursue his point, the gentleman withdrew. The owner of one scant young nose, gnawed and mumbled by the hungry cold, as bones are gnawed by dogs, stooped down at Scrooge's keyhole to regale him with a Christmas carol. But at the first sound of "God bless you, merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay," Scrooge seized the ruler with such energy of action that the singer fled in terror, leaving the keyhole to the fog and the more congenial frosting.
You want the whole day off tomorrow, I suppose.
If quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient, and it's not fair. If I was to dock you half a crown for it, you'd find yourself ill-used, are we bound? You don't think me ill-used when I pay you a whole day's wages for no work.
It's only once a year, sir.
Poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. Oh, I suppose you must have the whole day. You'll be here all the earlier next morning.
I will, sir. You may be sure of it.
The office was closed in a twinkling. The clerk, with the long ends of his comforter dangling below his waist, for he boasted no greatcoat, ran home to Camden Town as hard as he could pelt to play at blind man's buff. Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having read all the newspapers and beguiled the rest of the evening with his banker's book, went home to bed. Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on his door, except that it was very large. It is also true that Scrooge had as little of what is called fancy about him as any man in the city of London. Let it also be borne in mind that Scrooge had not given one thought to Marley since that afternoon. Well, then let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that Scrooge saw in the knocker not a knocker, but Marley's face.
Marley's face?
Oh, it was not angry or ferocious, but looked at Scrooge as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles turned up on its ghostly forehead. As Scrooge looked fixedly at this phenomenon, well, it was a knocker again.
Humbug.
may suppose that it was pretty dark. Up the stairs Scrooge went, not caring a button for that. Darkness is cheap, and Scrooge liked it. Before Scrooge shut his heavy door, he walked through his rooms to see that all was right. He had just enough recollection of the face to desire to do that. Bedroom, sitting room, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa, a small fire in the grate, spoon and basin ready, and a little saucepan of gruel upon the hob. Nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet, nobody in his dressing gown, which was hanging up in a suspicious attitude against the wall. Quite satisfied, he closed his door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he put on his dressing gown and his nightcap. And he sat down before the fire to take his gruel. Suddenly, there began a clanking noise, deep down below, as if some person were dragging a heavy chain in the cellar. And then he heard the noise much louder on the floors below, then coming up the stairs, and then coming even closer.
Humbug, I won't believe it. Oh, no. What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you, then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. You don't believe in me.
I don't.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach. You might be a bit of undigested beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. Why, there's more of gravy than of grave about you, whatever you are.
No!
Mercy! Dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?
It is required of all men that the spirit within them should walk abroad and visit with their fellow men. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so in death. It can wander the world. Oh, woe is me. And witness what it cannot share, but may have shared on earth and turn to happiness. Oh!
You are fettered, tell me why.
I wear the chains I forged in life. I made them link by link and yard by yard, and girded them on of my own free will. And of my own free will I wore them. Are they heavy and strong, like the chains that you bear? Ah, they are heavy and long, and they were this long 7 Christmas Eves ago. Oh, you have labored on them since. Such a ponderous chain.
Jacob, oh Jacob Marley, speak comfort to me, I beg.
I have none to give. It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge. It is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. Nor do I know what they would, as a very little is all that is permitted to me. Oh, mark me, my spirit. It has not walked outside our counting room. Yes, mark me. In life, my spirit has never wandered beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing hall. Oh, and weary journeys lie before me.
But you were always such a good man of business, Jacob.
A business! Mankind is my business. The common welfare is my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. Oh, the dealings of my trade are but a small drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. Oh, I have come here tonight to warn you, so that there is a chance and hope that you can escape my fate. A chance and hope of my procuring Ebenezer.
You were always very kind to me, Jacob. Thank you.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
Is that the chance and hope you mentioned?
It is.
I think I'd rather not.
Oh, without their visit, you cannot expect to shun the path I tread. The first will visit when the bell tolls 1.
Couldn't I at least take them all at once and have it over with, Jacob?
Expect the second on the next night, at the same hour. The third on the next night, after the last bell tolls after midnight. Oh, look to see me no more. Look that, for your own sake, you remember what has passed between us.
The chimes of a neighboring church struck the hour. When Scrooge awoke, it was so dark that looking out of bed he could scarcely distinguish the transparent window from the opaque walls of his chamber. Scrooge lay there until he remembered on a sudden that the ghost had warned him of a visitation when the bell tolled 1. He resolved to stay awake until the hour had passed, and considering that he could no more go to sleep than go to heaven, this was perhaps the wisest resolution in his power. Ding dong!
1:15.
Ding dong!
1:30.
Ding dong!
1:45.
Ding dong!
The hour itself, and nothing else.
He spoke before the hour bell sounded, which it now did with a deep, dull, hollow, melancholy 1.
You are the spirit whose coming was foretold to me.
I am. I'm the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past.
No, your past.
What business brings you here?
Your welfare. Come, walk with me.
I am mortal and liable to fall.
Bear but a touch of my hand, and you will be upheld in more than this.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall, and the city had entirely vanished. Not a vestige of it was to be seen. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground, and they stood upon an open country road with fields on either hand.
Good heavens, I was bred in this place. I was a boy here.
Your lip is trembling. And what is that upon your cheek?
Conduct me where you will.
You recollect the way?
remember it. I can walk it blindfold.
Strange to have forgotten it for so many years.
They walked along the road, Scrooge recognizing every gate and post and tree, until a little market town appeared in the distance, with its bridge, its church, a winding river, and a school. Even though it is the Christmas holidays, the school is not quite deserted. A solitary child, neglected by his family, is left there still. Scrooge and the ghost went into a long, bare, melancholy room, made barer still by lines of plain desks. At one of these, a lonely boy was reading near a feeble fire.
These are but shadows of things that have been. They have no consciousness of us.
I wish, but it's too late now.
What is the matter?
Nothing. There was a boy at my door last night singing a Christmas carol. I wish I would have given him something.
Let us see another Christmas.
The room became a little darker and more dirty. The panels shrunk. The windows cracked. Fragments of plaster fell out of the ceiling, and the naked lads were shown instead. But how all this was brought about, Scrooge knew no more than you do. He only knew that it was quite correct, that everything had happened so as time had passed, and that there he was, alone again, when all the other boys had gone home for the jolly holidays. A door opened, and a girl came darting in, and putting her arms around him, addressed him as her dear, dear brother. I have come to bring you home, dear brother.
Home, little fan.
Home, for good and all. Home, forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be that home is like heaven. He spoke so gently to me one dear night when I was getting ready for bed that I was not afraid to ask him one more time if you might come home. And he said you should, and he sent me in a carriage to bring you, and we're to be together all the Christmas time long and have the merriest holidays in all the world.
Such a delicate creature for whom a breath did wither. But she had a large heart. She died a woman and had, as I think, children.
One child.
True. Your niece.
Yes.
Although they had but that moment left the school behind them, they were now in the busy thoroughfares of a city, where people passed and repassed, where shadowy carts and coaches battled for the way, and all the strife and tumult of a real city were. It was made plain enough by the dressing of the shops that here too it was Christmas time again, but it was evening, and the streets were lighted up. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it.
Know it? I was apprenticed here. Why, it's Fezziwig! It's Fezziwig alive again!
Hi-ho, Ebenezer! Hi-ho, Dick!
Dick Wilkins, as I live, yes. Yes, there he is. Oh, he was very much attached to me.
Hi-ho, my boys! No more work tonight! Christmas Eve, Dick! Christmas, Ebenezer! Clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here! Cheer up, Dick! Hi-ho, Ebenezer!
Clear away? Well, there was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away or couldn't have cleared away with old Fezziwig looking on. It was done in a minute, and the warehouse was as snug and warm and dry and bright a ballroom as you would desire to see upon a winter's night. In came a fiddler with a music book and made an orchestra of it. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast, substantial smile. In came the three Miss Fezziwigs, oh, beaming and lovable. In came the 6 young followers whose hearts they broke. In came all the young men and women employed in the business. There was dances, and there was cake, and there was a great piece of cold roast, and there were mince pies, and lots of beer. But the great effect of the evening came when the fiddler struck up after dinner. Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig. As to her, she was worthy to be his partner in every sense of the term. If that's not high praise, tell me higher, and I'll use it.
Do you know the stuff at all?
No, not at all.
Oh,
I have 2 left feet.
that's better than having 3 or 4.
And what is your name?
Oh, my name is Beth.
Oh, Hell. That is a beautiful name.
Oh, thank you. And yours?
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Oh, how charming.
Yes.
How long have you been employed by the Fezziwigs?
When the clock struck 11, this domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took their stations and shaking hands with every person individually as he or
Merry
she went
Christmas.
out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
When everybody had retired but the 2 apprentices, they did the same to them, and thus the
Merry
cheerful
Christmas.
voices died
Merry
away,
Christmas.
and the lads were left to their beds, which were under a counter in the back shop. During the whole of this time, Scrooge's heart and soul were in the scene with his former self. He remembered everything and enjoyed everything.
A small matter to make such silly folk so full of gratitude.
Small!
Why is it not? They have spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps.
It isn't that, Spirit, it isn't that. He has the power, don't you see, to make us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or toil. Say that he does it with words that cost him nothing. What of that? The happiness he gives is quite as great as the cost of fortune.
What is the matter?
Nothing in particular.
Something, I think.
No, I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now. That's all.
My time grows short. Quick.
Again, Scrooge saw himself. He was older now, a man in the prime of life. His face had not the harsh and rigid lines of later years, but it had begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. There was an eager, greedy, restless motion in the eye which showed the passion that had taken root. He was not alone, but sat by the side of a fair young girl, in whose eyes there were tears.
It matters little. To you, very little. I've seen you. Another passion has taken root, and the master passion gained engrosses you.
What idol has displaced you, Belle?
A golden one. I've seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one, until the master passion gain engrosses you.
I am not changed towards you.
Our contract is an old one. When it was made, you were another man.
Have I ever sought release?
In words, no. Never.
In what then?
In a changed nature. In an altered spirit. In another atmospheric life. Another hope at its great end. In everything that gave my love of any worth or value in your sight. If you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday, could even I believe that you would choose a dowerless girl? I release you with a full heart for the love of the man that you once were. You may, the memory of what has half past makes me hope you will have pain in this a very, very brief time. And you will dismiss its recollection as an unprofitable dream from which it happened well that you awoke. May you be happy in the life that you have chosen.
One shadow more.
They were in another scene and place, a room not very large or handsome, but full of comfort. Near to the winter fire he saw a man. Then Belle, now a comely matron, entered along with her daughter. And now Scrooge looked on more attentively than ever to see this man with his daughter and her mother at his own fireside. And when Scrooge thought that such another creature, quite as graceful and full of promise, might have called him father, and been a springtime in the haggard winter of his life, his sight grew very dim indeed.
Belle, I saw an old friend of yours this afternoon.
Who was it?
Oh, guess.
How can I? Oh, right. Mr. Scrooge?
Mr. Scrooge it was. Yes, I was walking past his office window, and, well, as it wasn't shut and there was a candle inside, I could scarcely help but seeing inside. Oh, well, his partner lies near death, and there he sat all alone. All alone in the world, I do believe.
Spirit, remove me from this place.
I told you that these are but shadows of things that have been. That they are what they are. Do not blame me.
I cannot bear it. Take me back and leave me. Haunt me no longer.
Awaking in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore and sitting up in bed to get his thoughts together, Scrooge had no occasion to be told that the bell was again upon the stroke of 1. He felt that he was restored to consciousness in the right nick of time for the especial purpose of holding a conference with the second messenger dispatched to him through Jacob Marley's intervention. He wished to challenge the spirit on the moment of its appearance, and did not wish to be taken by surprise and made nervous. Scrooge was ready for a good, broad field of strange appearances, and nothing between a baby and a rhinoceros would have astonished him very much. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing. And, consequently, when the bell struck 1 and no shape appeared, he was taken by a violent fit of trembling. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour went by, and yet nothing came.
Ebenezer Scrooge! Come in, and know me better, man! I am the ghost of Christmas present! Look upon me, you have never seen my like before!
Never, Spirit. Last night I went against my will, but I learned a lesson that is working now. Tonight, if you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch my robe!
Scrooge did as he was told and held it fast, and they were in the city streets on Christmas morning. Perhaps it was the spirit's own kind, generous, hearty nature and his sympathy with all poor men that led him straight to the Scrooge's clerks. For there he went and took Scrooge with him, holding on to his robe, and when they got there, the spirit smiled and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling. Then up rose Mrs. Cratchit, dressed out but poorly in a twice-turned gown, but brave in ribbons, which are cheap and make a goodly show for 6pence. Master Peter Cratchit plunged a fork into the saucepan of potatoes. And now 2 smaller Cratchits, boy and girl, came tearing in, screaming that outside the baker's they had smelt the goose and known it for their own. And basking in luxurious thoughts of sage and onion, these young Cratchits danced about the table.
What has ever got your precious father, then? And your brother Tiny Tim? And Martha went this late last Christmas by half an hour.
Here's Martha, Mother.
Oh, I bless your heart alive, my dear. How late you are. I'll sit you down by the fire, my dear.
No, Martha hid herself, and in came little Bob with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Oh, at last for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
Why, where's our Martha?
Oh, not coming?
Not coming? Not coming upon Christmas Day?
Oh, Martha didn't like to see him disappointed, if it were only a joke. So she came out prematurely from behind the closet door and ran into his arms. Bob hugged his daughter to his heart's content. The two young Cratchits and Martha hustled Tiny Tim and bore him off to the wash house that he might hear the pudding singing in the copper and to get the goose.
How did little Tim behave?
Oh, as good as gold and better. Somehow, he gets thoughtful sitting by himself so much and thinks the strangest things you ever heard. Coming home, he told me that he hoped that the people saw him in the church and that it might be pleasant for them to remember who made the lame beggars walk and the blind men see.
Martha, Tiny Tim, and the two ubiquitous young Cratchits soon returned with the goose in high procession.
Oh, there never was such a goose. I don't believe there ever was such a goose cooked.
Its tenderness and flavor, size and cheapness were the themes of universal admiration. Eked out by applesauce and mashed potatoes, it was a sufficient dinner for the whole family. Yet everyone had had enough, and the youngest Cratchits in particular were steeped in sage and onion to the eyebrows. But now, the plates being changed by Miss Martha, Mrs. Cratchit left the room alone, too nervous to bear witnesses, to take the pudding up and bring it in.
Oh, suppose it should not be done enough. Suppose it should break in turning out. Suppose somebody should have gone over the back wall and stolen it while we were married with the goose.
A great deal of steam. The pudding was out of the copper. A smell like a washing day. Oh, that was the cloth. A smell like an eating house and a pastry cooks next door to each other with a laundress next door to that. Ah, that was the pudding.
Oh, a wonderful pudding. I regard it as the greatest success achieved by Mrs. Cratchit since our marriage.
I admit I had my doubts about the quantity of flour.
Everybody had something to say about it, but nobody said or thought it was a small pudding for such a large family. It would have been flat heresy to do so. Any Cratchit would have blushed to hint at such a thing. At last, the dinner was all done, the hearth swept, and the fire made up. Then all the Cratchit family drew round.
A very Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
God bless us.
God bless us, everyone, said Tiny Tim, the last of all.
Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see an unoccupied chair in the corner and a crutch without an owner. If these shadows are unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No, Spirit, no, Spirit, say he will be spared.
If he want to die, then he'd better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Mr. Scrooge, I'll give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. If I had him here, I'd give a piece of my mind to feast upon.
My dear, the children, Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. It would be Christmas Day on which one drinks such an odious, stingy, odd, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Robert. Nobody knows it better than you do, poor fellow.
My dear, Christmas Day.
I'll do it for your sake and the day's, not his. Oh. A long life to him, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
children drank the toast after her. It was the first of their proceedings that had no heartiness. Tiny Tim drank it last of all, but he didn't care tuppence for it. Scrooge was the ogre of the family. The mention of his name cast a dark shadow on the party, which was not dispelled for full 5 minutes. After it had passed away, they were 10 times merrier than before, from the mere relief of Scrooge the Baleful being done with. By this time it was getting dark and snowing pretty heavily, and as Scrooge and the Spirit went along the streets, the brightness of the roaring fires in kitchens, parlors, and all sorts of rooms was wonderful. Here, the flickering of the blaze showed preparations for a cozy dinner, with hot plates baking through and through before the fire, and deep red curtains ready to be drawn to shut out the cold and darkness. There, all the children of the house were running out into the snow to meet their married sisters, their brothers, cousins, uncles, aunts, and be the first to greet them. But here again were shadows on the window blind of guests assembling, and there a group of handsome girls, all hooded and fur-booted, and all chattering at once, tripped lightly off to some near neighbor's house where, woe upon the single man who saw them enter in a glow. But if you had judged from the numbers of people on their way to friendly gatherings, you might have thought that no one was at home to give them welcome when they got there, instead of every house expecting company, and piling up its fires half chimney high. Oh, blessings on it! How the ghost exulted! It was a great surprise to Scrooge to hear a hearty laugh. It was a much greater surprise to Scrooge to recognize it as his own niece's, and to find himself in a bright, dry, gleaming room with the Spirit standing smiling by his side and looking at that same niece with approving affability.
Christmas a humbug. He certainly believed it too.
Well, more shame for him, Winnie.
Oh, he's a comical old fellow, that's the truth. And not as pleasant as he might be, though his offenses carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him.
Oh, yes, but I'm sure he's very rich. or at least you tell me so, Winnie.
Oh, and what of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. I'm sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. However, he takes it into his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us.
Well, he misses out on a very fine dinner.
I was only going to say that the only consequence of his not coming and making merry with us is, as I think, he misses some very pleasant moments, which could do him no harm. I mean, to give him the same chance year after year, whether he likes it or not. He may rail at Christmas until he dies, and yet I defy him. If he finds me going there in good temper, year after year, asking Uncle Scrooge, how are you, that is something. If it only puts him in the vein to leave his poor clerk £50, it is something. It is better than nothing.
After a while they played at forfeits, for it is good to be children sometimes, and never better than at Christmas, when its mighty founder was a child himself. Oh, there might have been 20 people there, young and old, but they all played. And so did Scrooge, for wholly forgetting that his voice made no sound in their ears, he sometimes came out with his guess quite loud, and often guessed quite right, too. There was a game called Yes and No, where Scrooge's niece had to think of something and the rest must find out what, she only answering to their questions yes or no as the case was. Winifred was thinking of an animal, a wild, dangerous beast that walked the very streets of London itself.
Is it a donkey?
I know. It's a badger.
a loud noise. Yes.
Oh.
Does it walk on two legs?
Yes.
What? Oh.
Oh.
Oh. Is it angry?
Yes.
Oh.
I have found it out! I know what it is, Winifred! I know what it is!
What is it?
It's your Uncle Scrooge!
Oh!
He has given us much merriment indeed, and I think it would be ungrateful to not drink to his health.
Oh, yes.
There, Father,
Good dear.
here is a glass of mulled wine to our hand. And to that I say, Uncle Scrooge.
Yes.
Uncle
Scrooge!
Oh, may he have a Merry Christmas, the old man, whatever he is. And though he wouldn't take it from me, may he have a Happy New Year as well. Uncle Scrooge.
Uncle Scrooge.
Uncle Scrooge had imperceptibly become so gay and light of heart that he would have pledged the unconscious company in return and thanked them in an inaudible speech if the ghost had given him time. The whole scene passed off in the breath of the last words spoken by his niece, and he and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. The spirit stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. On foreign lands, and they were close at home. By struggling men, and they were patient in their greater hope. By poverty, and it was rich. In almshouse, hospital, and jail, in miseries every refuge, where vain man in his little brief authority had not made fast the door and barred the spirit out, he left his blessing, and taught Scrooge his precepts.
My life upon this globe is very brief, and ends tonight at midnight. Hark, the time draws near.
Spirit, are they yours?
They are man's, and they cling to me. The boy is ignorance, and the girl is want. Beware them both in all of their measures, but beware most of all the boy. For upon his brow I see that which written spells doom, unless these spirits be altered.
But have they no refuge or resource?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
The bell struck 12.
I'm in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come. You are going to show me shadows, the things that have not happened, but will happen in the time before us. Is this so, Spirit? I fear you, ghost of the future, more than any other spectre I have seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I am prepared to follow you. Lead on, Spirit, lead on. The night is waning fast. It is precious time to me, I know. Lead on, Spirit.
They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them and encompass them of its own act. But there they were in the heart of it. They went into an obscure part of the town where Scrooge had never penetrated before, although he recognized its situation and its bad repute. The whole quarter reeked with crime, with filth, and misery.
What odds then? What odds? Oh. Every person has a right to take care of themselves. He always did. Who's the worse for a loss of a few things like these? Not a dead man, I suppose. If you want to keep them after he was dead, wicked old Screw. Why wasn't he natural in his lifetime? If he had been, he'd have someone to look after him after he was struck with death. Instead of lying here alone, gasping out his last.
Far in this den of infamous resort, there was a low-browed, beetling shop. Scrooge and the Phantom came in just as a charwoman with a heavy bundle slunk into the shop.
Open that bundle, old Joe, and let me know the value of it.
What do you call these then? Bed curtains!
Bed curtains.
You mean to tell me that you took them down, rings and all, with him lying there?
Yes, I do. Why not?
Oh, you were born to make your fortune, and you're going to do it.
You can look through that shirt till your eyes ache, but you won't find a hole in it, nor a threadbare's place. It's the best he had, and a fine one too. They'd have wasted it if it hadn't been for me.
What do you call the wasting of it?
Putting it on him to be buried in, to be sure. Someone was fool enough to do it, but I took it off him again. You see, it's the end, you see. He frightened everyone away from him when he was alive. To profit us when he was dead.
I see that the fate of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now. Merciful heavens, what is this?
There, plundered and bereft, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of a man. He lay in the dark, empty house with not a man, a woman, or a child to say that he was kind to me in this or that, and for the memory of one kind word, I will be kind to him.
Spirit, this is a fearful place. Let us go. I will not leave its lesson when we leave, please. Let us see some tenderness connected with the death, for this dark chamber shall be forever present to me.
The ghost conducted him through several streets familiar to his feet. They entered poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found the mother and the children seated round the table. Quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues. The mother and her daughter were engaged in sewing, but surely they were very quiet.
The color hurts my eyes. They're better now again. It makes them weep by candlelight, and I wouldn't want to show weak eyes to your father when he comes home for the world. It must be near his time now.
Past it, rather. But I think he's been walking a bit slower these past few evenings, Mother.
I have known him walk with Tiny Tim on his shoulder very fast indeed, but he was very light to carry, and his father loved him so that it was no trouble. No trouble. There's your father at the door. You ain't today then, Robert?
Yes, my dear. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised him I would walk there on a Sunday. My little child. However and whenever we part from one another, I'm sure that we shall none of us forget poor Tiny Tim, shall we? Nor of this first parting that there was among us.
Never, Father.
And I know, my dears, that when we recollect how patient and how mild he was, although he was a little child, we shall not quarrel easily among ourselves and forget poor Tiny Tim in doing it, shall we?
No, never, Father.
Spirit, something tells me our parting moment is at hand. I know not how I know that, but I do. Please, Spirit, tell me who was that man whom we saw lying dead?
The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed him outside to a desolate place. Scrooge paused to look round before entering. A churchyard. Here then the wretched man, whose name he had now to learn, lay underneath the ground. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge advanced towards it, trembling.
Spirit, before I draw nearer to that stone to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of things that will be, or the shadows of things that may be only? Men's courses do foreshadow certain ends, to which, if persevered in, they must lead. If the course be changed, the end may change. Say it is thus with what you show. Ebenezer Scrooge. Spirit! Am I the man who lay upon the bed? No, Spirit. No, Spirit. I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I would have been. Why show me all this if I am past all hope?
For the first time, the hand appeared to shake.
Your nature intercedes for me and pities me. Oh, assure me that I yet may change these shadows by an altered life.
The kind hand trembled.
I will honor Christmas in my heart and strive to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirit of all three shall strive with me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on that stone.
In his agony, Scrooge caught the spectral hand. It sought to free himself, but he was strong in his entreaty and detained it. The spirit, stronger yet, repulsed him. Holding up his hands in a last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own, to make amends in.
I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and Christmas be praised. My curtains, they're not torn down. They're not torn down, rings and all. They're here. I am here. The shadows of things that would have been may be dispelled. They will be. I know they will. I don't know what to do. I was light as a feather. I was happy as an angel. I was merry as a schoolboy. I'm as giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year to all the world.
Really, for a man who had been out of practice for so many years, it was a splendid laugh, a most illustrious laugh, the father of a long line of brilliant laughs. No fog, no mist, golden sunlight, heavenly sky, merry bells.
Glorious, glorious. You there. Oh, what's today?
Eh?
What's today, my fine fellow?
Today? Why, it's Christmas Day!
I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all over America. They can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one at the corner?
I should hope I did.
Oh, an intelligent lad, a remarkable lad. Do you know if they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging there? Not the little one, the big one.
What, the one as big as me?
Delightful, that's a pleasure to talk to them. Yes, my buck.
Well, it's hanging there still.
Is it? Then go and buy it.
Walk up.
No, I'm serious. Go and buy it. And bring the man here. I may tell him where to deliver it. Come back with the man. I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in 5 minutes. I'll give you half a crown. Send it to Bob Cratchit. He won't know who sent it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim.
Oh, he dressed himself all in his best. And he went out into the streets. The people were by this time pouring forth as he had seen them with the ghost of Christmas present. And walking with his hands behind him, Scrooge regarded every one with a delighted smile. He looked so irresistibly pleasant, in a word, that 3 or 4 good-humored fellows said, "Good morning, sir! A Merry Christmas to you!" and Scrooge said often afterwards that of all the blithe sounds he had ever heard, those were the blithest in his ears.
Merry Christmas to you, sir. Oh, it was very kind of you to try yesterday. I do hope you succeeded. Merry Christmas.
Mr. Scrooge?
That is my name. I'm sure this is not very pleasant to you. Allow me to apologize. And if I'm not too late, I would like to donate.
Lord bless me. Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
Oh, quite serious. Not a farthing less. A great many bad payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you come and see me?
I will.
Will you come along with us?
I will.
He went to church and walked about the streets and watched the people hurrying to and fro, and patted children on the head and questioned beggars, looked down into the kitchens of houses and up to the windows, and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything could give him so much happiness.
Here we come a-wassailing among the leaves so green. Here we come a-wandering so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassel too. And God bless you and send you a happy new year. And God send you a happy new year.
In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his niece's house.
Winifred, it is I, your Uncle Scrooge. I have come to dinner. Will you let me in?
Let him in? It's a mercy she didn't squeeze the life out of him.
Oh, Fanny! Reginald! Oh, yes. You must meet my Uncle Scrooge. Oh, hello. Uncle, you've seen a ghost. Are you all right?
Oh, a few of them.
Hello. Good to meet you.
Delighted. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
It's so pretty. Shall we play a game? Yes, we shall. Can we play yes or no? Oh, yes, we absolutely can. Okay. Can we be the guessers? Yes. Is it an animal? No. Okay. Is it very large? No.
Is it an instrument?
Yes.
Oh.
Is it very loud? Yes.
Is it a drum?
No.
Does it have strings?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Is it a violin? Yes.
Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful happiness. Scrooge was early at the office next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late, that was the thing he had his heart set upon. And he did it. Yes, he did. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15. No Bob. He was a full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Scrooge sat with his door wide open that he might see him come in.
Hello. What do you mean by coming here this time of day?
I'm very sorry, sir. I'm behind my time.
You are? Yes, I think you are.
It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir.
Now see here, my good man. I will not have this sort of thing any longer. And therefore I have decided to raise your salary.
Bob trembled and got a little nearer to the ruler. He had a momentary idea of knocking Scrooge down with it, holding him and calling to the people of the court for help and a straight waistcoat.
A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas, Bob, than I have given you in many a year. I will raise your salary and provide for your struggling family, and we'll discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop, Bob.
you make up the fires and buy yourself a whole new scuttle of coal before you've got one more eye on Cratchit. Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he became a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, as good a man as any in that good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in this good old world. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and little heeded them. His own heart laughed. That was good enough for him. It was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us, of all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, every one.